Look at that, that's pretty poor, actually.
This is kind of flimsy looking wiring that's, the junctions are all taped together.
It looks like it's already like split in some places. Right here, I could see a split and crack.
Here's your DPF, and there's
That's
like
very close, isn't it?
the auto ignition temperature of dry grass is like 270.
Right.
If you're in the middle of bloody nowhere and your car catches fire, that's kind of bad. This oil cap here.
Yeah, the one you're supposed to be able to open.
Okay, well, that's bizarre, dude.
Okay, this is an exciting day because it is the 4th video of the JAC T9. I said that we would be taking a look at the engineering of the car, but I'm not an engineer. My dad is though.
Son, so nice to see you again.
This is my dad, John, and John is an auto expert. It's in his name, John Auto Expert Cadogan.
I blame my parents.
And I blame my parents.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to look through the JAC and its engineering. I don't know anything about it, to be honest, so we're gonna see how is it put together, how is it built, and frankly, is it good or is it shit? Because it's cheap, but is it cheap for a reason?
These things exist on a spectrum, dude. Good up here, shit up here, and we'll figure out exactly where that is. And we might do a bit of a deep dive into whether it's gonna be a long-term ownership proposition.
Let's find out. Now, also, I don't have the facilities to be able to do this, so we're here with Justin, a Colton classic, who is kindly lending us his hoist as I also buy a car, and John might also have just been roped into buying a car as well, which he'll talk about in his own channel, I'm sure. So, lift it up.
Tally-ho, let's go.
Hurry up.
I think we might come in from the rear. What do you reckon?
It's my favorite way to go.
Absolutely, dude. This is nothing really revolutionary to see here. We've got leaf sprung rear end, and obviously we're at full droop at the moment, so you can see that there's not much extra room for droop here on the brake lines with the flexible hoses, right? So in a dynamic droop situation, I'd be a bit worried about maybe them just getting a little bit of tension on them.
Yeah,
that could be a thing. You know, you go over a hump and the axle thumps down and goes, I don't know, an inch lower.
When we took it off-road, there wasn't much articulation in the wheel. Kind of makes sense. If you went any further, you'd actually just destroy everything.
Yeah. Well, this is only static droop, right? So when you've got dynamic droop, it could be further than that.
True.
And the other thing that I kind of notice is this is kind of flimsy looking wiring that's, the junctions are all taped together, and it just doesn't look as robust as wiring could look out of a factory, frankly.
Not at all. It looks like it's already like split in some places. Right here, I could see a split and crack.
Yeah, well, you know, you've got like a terminal block here that joins these two connections together, and this is a wheel sensor, right? So it's like an ABS speed sensor or something like that. And the junction is way up here on top of the diff, which is not terrible because it's reasonably protected. But you can see here the actual insulation on the conduit does not continue to the junction. No. Right, where the connector is. Yeah. And that's kind of a fail, in my view. A lot of this stuff is like that. Like, there's cable ties holding bits on. There's a cable tie here, there's a cable tie here for the wiring, whereas obviously the brake lines are, you know, more securely fastened, as you'd probably expect them to be, but there's a lot of reliance on tape and cable ties, which to me at least doesn't say future-proof. Same thing here, you know, you can see the junction here for the rear wiring. I don't know why you would have the wires exposed in an environment that is so predisposed to getting saturated.
Well, when you're water weighting and it's got a 550 millimeter water weighting depth, you're going to get water pooling in these areas.
Dude, when you're driving up the freeway at 120 k's an hour, I think there's a fair old water jet coming up here too. You know?
So far, electronics back here don't look very well protected.
Anyway, moving forward.
Moving on swiftly.
The next thing, plastic fuel tank.
Oh, that is plastic.
Right? So nothing intrinsically wrong with the plastic fuel tank, although if you did want to do serious off-roading, it'd be nice if it had a protection plate. When I had a look at the GWM plug-in hybrid, the Canon Alpha plug-in hybrid, it's got full-on protection plate running like the full length.
Does it? There you go.
So now you've got your split tail shaft with a slip joint in it, because obviously the rear axle just moves straight up and down, because that's what leaf springs do. And that means, because this joint here is fixed, it means the radius doesn't get to move like a radius. You know, so the joint has to move in and out slightly, and that's accommodated just here. So that's good. That's kind of professional. When you look at the chassis rail and the cross members and the way they're welded together. I think this is the most visual example just here. That's welded by a human, not as good as welded by a machine, because obviously humans have variability, whereas machines, if you get the process control right, machines just, they don't stop.
No.
You watch the Terminator movies, they just never stop.
They'll kill you.
Some of these welds, frankly, are not that good. There's a little bit of lack of fusion in some of them. They're just not really deeply penetrated.
Look at that. That's pretty poor, actually.
You know, like what you'd really like to see if you want the pro welding thing is you'd like to see robotic spray transfer MIG, which would just be the gold standard, I guess. And when you look at the placement of the welds here, if I'm some Tron in R&D and I'm doing the design of this cross member and it's in two pieces, it's got like a channel like this underneath and a channel like that on top, and you weld them together, then obviously you've got to figure out exactly what the stresses are and get the welds right.
Yeah.
And if you do that with CNC welding, bang on, you get the same width of welds everywhere and you get the same gaps, and you know the quality control is in place. So if you want this to function properly, you've got to overweld it to overcome all of those, you know, variable human deficiency kind of thing. What else can we see, dude? We can see a ball water transfer case, kind of important if you want drive going to both ends. And you've got this switching that basically tells the computer, yeah, I'm in low range. That's kind of okay.
Interesting, like a military-esque, how they just stamp all of the everything
Yes.
onto there.
This is a JAC-L21064.
One of my favourites.
2200P33G2.
Do you reckon it has any meaning?
Just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
It's like Chinese truck. You remember the Chinese buses where they just had it's like someone smashed a keyboard and was like, that's it.
So we got a heat shield, which is always nice, so that your derriere doesn't steam as you drive along. The chassis seems pretty beefy though, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. And it doesn't seem robotically welded though either. I think a human welded the chassis together. So.
Which concerns me, right? Because in every Chinese factory I've gone to, they've got more machines than humans, which frankly, I kind of prefer when they're building my 2.5 ton rig, you know?
The thing about machines is process control.
Yeah.
Right? They're all going to be the same. Whereas you've got a human, he's thinking about, you know, hooking up with Narelle after work for
as we all do,
a burger and fries or something like that in the hot tub. And plastic sump. This is something I got glaringly wrong in my GWM Canon Alpha review. I looked at it and didn't do the tappy tap tap, which is so important. And I assumed it was a die-cast aluminium, but no, plastic. And the interesting thing about that is, here's your DPF. And there's
that's very close, isn't it?
At its closest point, it's about 40 millimetres away from the plastic sump with no heat shield.
And how hot can a DPF get?
Probably 600 to 800 degrees.
Right, so you don't really want that next to your plastic componentry.
The oil,
it's kind of what I feel.
The oil in the transmission, you'd probably want that to be, I don't know, not much more than 100 degrees C, I guess. It'd be fairly stable plastic under heat, but there's a lot more heat load on this side. And the problem is, you're driving along, the DPF decides to do a burn, the traffic in front stops, and there's no airflow. So all of a sudden you've just got this major sort of convective and radiative heat load getting straight into the side of your plastic sump. I'm not sure.
You know what makes that more concerning is I've now put on 2,000 kilometres onto this car and it will not tell you when it's doing a DPF burn. So by the sounds of it, if you do come to a stop and you don't know that the DPF is burning, that could be just a very bad thing, because you really want to be at highway speeds by the sound of it, so it doesn't melt that.
Yeah, although the DPF doesn't care. Like, it can be burning and then you can stop and it'll just stop burning, you know. Right. So you can have burnus interruptus all day long if you like. But the thing that would concern me about off-roading here is, like, the DPF is pretty simple the way it operates, right? One of these two is a pressure port as well, and it measures the pressure across the DPF. When there's a big drop in pressure across the DPF, it means the soot load is high, and then it goes cruising for an opportunity to do a burn, right? But all of this plumbing up the pointy end here, if you're driving in your off-road JAC through a whole bunch of spin effects or dry grass or something of that nature, there's a lot of opportunity on the lateral aspect and the frontal aspect of the DPF for dry grass to get caught and build up, right? The problem here is there is a bit of a heat shield here, so maybe the outside of this would get to 400 or 500 degrees C. Oh. The auto ignition temperature of dry grass is like 270.
Right.
And if you're in the middle of bloody nowhere and your car catches fire, that's kind of bad, because not only do you lose your car, you lose your comms, you lose your, you know, your first aid, you lose all your support. You probably haven't got a drink for a while either.
Yeah, it's right next to an oil-filled sump as well.
Yeah. So I don't want to just shit can the car. I mean, it's very conventionally laid out. Exhaust down one side, fuel tank down the other side. It's got engine, transmission, transfer case, front and rear drive shafts. All of that seems fundamentally sorted out.
Cool.
They could have done maybe $2,000 more work on the hair and makeup, at least as far as I see it. On the redeeming features front, that's all reasonably solid for what I'd consider to be light duty off-roading.
Yeah.
Up the front, you've obviously done some bashing.
We gave it a testing. We certainly gave it a testing off-road. And I will say it performed admirably.
You've done some mud wrestling. You've worn the paint off here by the look of things, so that's always nice. The boots and protection for the CV joints, they seem pretty robust, so that's nice. Got a big fat anti-roll bar and double wishbones up the pointy end. So
And everything seems in-house as well. Like this is JAC componentry. Even the brake is branded with JAC.
yeah, that's right. It's a JAC. Is it JAC or JAC? Do
It's
we
technically
know?
JAC, but they call it JAC for Australian colloquialism.
You got JAC.
Yeah. This comes back to the point you made at the beginning with longevity. When you've got cabling that's loose at the back like that, that's not properly water protected and water sealed, I cannot imagine that at some point in the next 10 years, this is going to have some sort of electronic failure in some way.
Well, what happens when you kick up a stick that's lying across the track? You're doing, I don't know, 50 k's an hour, which is 15 metres a second. So it takes about an eighth of a second to get to the rear axle. If that stick flicks up and just hits some of that cabling, then that's going to be an interesting day back at camp with the soldering iron and figuring the colour coding it, you know?
Well, speaking of,
Yeah.
let's look under the bonnet because there's some cabling stuff in there that I've noticed before, but I'm curious to get your thoughts.
All right, the final thing. They've done some good job with the drainage here, right? Because obviously if you're driving down the freeway at 100 k's an hour, you've got a river flowing into the intercooler and the radiator, and it's all going to drain out down here. They've done a really good job with the wind deflection and the drainage. So I don't think there's a problem with any of that. And you've got two front, big, massive front hooks that you could potentially use for recovery. They're probably just front tow hooks to get it up onto a flatbed. Not that we'd know anything about that, but what do we give it? 7 out of 10?
7 out of 10. Happy with that. That's good. That's good. Some room for improvement and some things I'd be a little bit concerned about if I were in this car for 10 years. But based on everything you've just said, it seems pretty solid underneath. A bit sparse perhaps, but at least it's using ZF componentry, Borg Warner transfer case, you know, some reputable name brands. Let's see what's under the bonnet. All right. Papa Cadogan.
Lift the lid, dude.
Take us through this.
Well, this would be what the dealership and the car company would say, nothing for you to see here. So let's take a good hard look, right?
Let's take a squeeze.
That's kind of interesting, don't you think?
So I love how it starts there and ends just there. That's my favourite part.
Why is there 200 less weather shield on the left-hand side? I don't get that.
I don't get that either.
I doubt that that's to facilitate airflow, to keep the windscreen washer reservoir.
What if I told you that this was an aftermarket modification I had? I'm very concerned about my washer fluid.
Yeah.
And my blinker fluid is honestly the bane of my
fluid.
existence.
Well,
I'm yet to find it.
The dealership charges you so much to change it, dude. Come on.
Exactly right.
So let's say 50 Somali pirates are shooting at you with their AKs.
It's quite floppy.
But I don't think it's going to stop
Hang
any
on.
bullets.
Hang on. I almost hit him.
I don't know that this has got longevity written all over it, but for camping, you could...
It's a great pillow.
Beautiful. We'll store this somewhere safe, shall we?
Yeah, because usually there would be like a plastic sheet on top, right?
Yeah.
It's only keep rigidity. But
So what's really interesting to me here is the amount of foam on top of the engine. Like we've got a foam cover, which can only be acoustic insulation. And then we've got all this really spongy foam around the injectors. And it's not like they're going anywhere, and we're not shipping them via DHL or something. It's got to be acoustic insulation because they're so freaking noisy.
Can I say that it literally has zero benefit because this has to be probably the rattliest diesel engine I've come across. And I'm not saying that out of spite or anything. It is simply just poor. It's poor.
Imagine without it though. You might be driving across the Nullarbor, halfway across, you'd be giving up Osama bin Laden's home address, dude.
Speaking of, try and turn that oil cap for me.
This oil cap here.
Yeah, the one you're supposed to be able to open.
Okay, well... Oh, that's...
Is it meant to be child-proofed?
Well, that's bizarre, dude. Like,
It's ratcheting.
it's ratcheting both ways, but the one thing it's not doing is freaking opening.
Correct.
Right? Now, I can't tell. Is that just me having a senior moment? Do you want to have a crack?
I can't. It'll just spin forever. Daddy Jacob, you got the guns. Go on.
I'll be honest.
No, come on,
I've
you
already
can do
tried.
it. You can do it. This is your opportunity to humiliate.
Oh no, that's actually not going. You're supposed to push in and turn, I think, but it doesn't.
So,
Nah, that's not right.
I think that's rooted X Factory.
yeah.
Right? I don't know. Maybe there's some secret sauce. Maybe you need a special tool. I'm usually a fairly special tool, but you know, this is a problem though, right? Because I don't know, on a trip somewhere and you check the oil and it's a bit low. What are you going to do? Fill it up via the dipstick tube with your freaking hypodermic needle? Like, I don't think so.
Just pull out your syringe. You'll be there for a while, something tells me.
So-
Wait, that's concerning.
So this is like the main body type wiring loom. It's got good conduit, but it's held in place by cable ties once again. So that's almost like a DIY project way of doing things. And then it's got these two sub looms that go to the engine. There's one over there near you and there's one over here, and they're just kind of very rudimentarily spliced in.
There's a lot of zip ties here.
There's a heap of zip ties. I'm not seeing the professionalism. I'm just not. When you look at the turbo intercooler plumbing on the pressurized side, you've got some pretty nice hose clamps just sort of down here, right? Pretty nice hose clamps there. But when you look at the radiator hoses, they've just got dodgy plastic clips on them in many places, you know? And this one here, the top radiator hose.
Oh, it's just a little piece of plastic. That will become brittle with time,
Yeah.
and that will snap.
And once again, all these connectors, like these connectors for the spark plug control, and basically everywhere you can see a connector coming out of the loom, there's all kinds of bare wires. If you care about longevity, I'd want to see more time and effort put into cable routing and cable protection and the overall integration of the wiring loom into the mechanical hard bits, you know?
Yeah, I think it's something that we see in the tech industry as well. Of course, we have TechSauce, so shout out to us, TechSauce. If a pre-built company gives you a computer and they haven't managed the cabling, it makes you think, what else haven't they done?
Exactly, because what we're talking about here is delivering a product at a price, but it's not acceptable to spend mid-40s on something that is objectively substandard, which could be done better with minimal additional cost. And I think this is just an example of them thinking this is good enough to get the product out there, but maybe not a lot of thought has been put into, you know, just longevity and professionalism and things of that nature. So we go over the Airbox. There's another classic example here of expediency, right? Because most airboxes, customer accessible easily without tools. You just flick little over-centering clips up, you lift the top of the airbox out, and you can do whatever, right? So with this one, these are screwed in place. And there's two problems with that. Unless you've got a Phillips head screwdriver with you, you can't check the air filter. And this is the kind of thing that, at a minimum, gets inspected once every 12 months during a service. So this self-tapper is going down into a nylon block, and guaranteed some apprentice with a bone through his nose is going to get the half-inch ugga-dugga on it, strip the thread, and then you need a new component.
Yeah. As soon as someone cross-threads one of these, then you've got an open air filter, essentially. And this is the thing, the engineering of this engine could be the world's best, right? It could be incredible. However, it's these accessories that could just completely let it down. And it's kind of the finish and the fit that could mean that if you are in the middle of Australia, right, and you need to change your oil and you can't because this is not opening for whatever reason, and maybe there is a logical reason, but I've never had an oil cap just not be able to open with your hand. You have one of these that hasn't been seated properly because the how you described it, bone-nosed or whatever apprentice just didn't give a shit or is too inexperienced.
Sure.
You got cabling in the back that could get flooded if you go to its weighting depth of 550 millimeters because it's essentially exposed or it's just not properly.
If you were going to do this properly, you'd design a connector where the conduit plugs into the connector. I mean, that's how you do it with the 240, and admittedly 240 can kill you, so it's a good idea not to have those wires exposed. You've got to protect the cabling and you've got to protect it for the long term, and I think what we're looking at here is emblematic of a design for functionality, and it's based on the premise that ordinary people are not going to open the bonnet and have a look.
I mean, why is there a screw here that's not screwed into anything? That concerns me, you know? Like, it makes me wonder why.
You're right. Like, there's a level of professionalism when you put things together, and it's not just done for functionality. It's also done to make things simple. They've done a pretty good job with the heat shield to prevent cabin heat from bleeding into the cockpit. So that's nice. And in many ways, that's one of the neatest things about this car. There's a worrying group of buyers who think that when they buy a car like this, they're kind of getting a Hilux only for 45 grand. Right, and that's clearly objectively not the case. Like, you're not getting the power, you're not getting a dealer network, and you're not getting the hair and makeup on stuff that's not immediately important, but which might matter to you a lot in, I don't know, 5 years or something.
It might be old, a car like the Hilux, but at least you kind of know what you're getting, and you know they've thought about all this stuff. Whereas here, I just don't think they've thought much past how do we make a dual cab Ute for 45 grand.
Yeah, and if you buy one of these, and obviously it's different for you because you're doing this as a commercial thing, it's your job, and you're running a mad experiment. But unwittingly, I think people who buy the first tranche of these vehicles and so many other Utes that fall into this kind of category, they unwittingly become lab rats, and they become gutted when they discover that they have been a lab rat in an experiment and it hasn't worked out all that well. And I'm not saying this vehicle's a box, I'm just saying, you know, it's not finished as well as Utes from the establishment.
Well, thank you.
My pleasure, mate. Thank you.
Let's get into our final thoughts. All right, so massive thank you again to John Cadogan from autoexpert.com.au. New cars cheap.
Do the final bit.
Yeah, massive shout out to him. Go subscribe to his channel. He actually knows what he's talking about, and I'm not an engineer. That's why if I go under a car like this, I need someone else to come with me and hold my hand, like my dad, to show me everything. What this does tell me is,
You'll be okay, son.
I'll take you to the nursing home in a second, all right, Dad? Calm down. The one thing that this tells me is that the fundamentals are there for this car. It's got a fine frame. Yes, it could have more bracing to it. And yes, perhaps the welds could be done by a robot and not a human because they're really inconsistent. But there are some concerning parts to it. I don't like where the DPF sits. It seems like it could honestly catch grass, dry grass, catch that on fire. Last thing you want is for this to burn down. And considering that it sits next to an oil sump, it's a bit silly. The wiring as well is inconsistently done. It's not wrapped well. It's not waterproofed in some areas. I can already see some cracks going through it. So that also gives me concern. And then under the bonnet, yeah, that foam, I don't, like, fine, whatever, the foam's there. But if that's hindering us opening the oil cap, I don't know what is, but it just is spinning. That could just be broken straight from factory. Again, concerning. And some other build stuff and electronic stuff under the bonnet as well. It just concerns me. So engineering is about probably what I had expected. It's really not that great. And I would implore you to go watch John Cadogan's video of the GWM Canon Alpha Fev, which shares the same platform as a GWM Canon, and you can see how that's built, but it's built better. It's got proper welding, for example. So yeah, if you guys want to go watch that video, I'll link it down below. Of course, if you want to watch the rest of the series of this JAC T9, I'll leave all those videos down below as well. And the next video, the final video in this, is how much we have lost on it, because I already know we've lost some money on it, but once you find out how much we've lost on it, I think you'll be just as sad as me. Ciao for now.